Hello, fellow travelers, on this very strange trip through planet Earth in this particular space-time continuum corner of the universe we're in. So, I just wanted to talk to you about something that has, come up in recent conversations that I've had with people. Um, a lot of it has to do with things happening in the world, and whenever there are major disruptions, like the beginning of a war or some kind of a tragedy someplace, whether it's on your doorstep or might be halfway around the world, but it's still impacting you. And a lot of times, of course, when this happens, it really throws everyone for a loop, right? We try to make sense of it. We try to, manage our feelings around it. And a lot of times we're very much, I guess, aware of particular feelings that are coming up and our feelings about our feelings, right? And what I've heard a lot from people lately is a mixture of a few things. One is, with everything that's going on in the world, or maybe it's just, someone who has a friend or a loved one who's struggling in some way. In light of how these people are struggling or suffering, in light of this major problem that's happening, how can I possibly allow myself to feel joyful? It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem fair that I should be feeling joy when there's all this horrible stuff happening. And so, I have a couple thoughts about this. One of which is, joy is available to us all the time. I mean, and I don't mean like if you're in the middle of despair, you're going to feel joy. But what I mean is that joy is something that courses through life. And sometimes it'll pop up when you least expect it, right? You may be having a bad day, but you're walking down the street and you just catch a glimpse of the sunlight in the trees, and it just, it wakes you up out of your dark thoughts, and you just have a moment where you're happy to be alive. You know, that's how joy works sometimes. Sometimes it just comes through like the light through the trees. And that's your birthright, right? Being alive on this planet entitles you to those surprise moments of joy, and we should enjoy those moments and lean into those moments. And it's not taking away from anyone else's experience. When you experience your own joy, you're not detracting from someone else. You're not. And if it's a solidarity issue, like I should be, joining into this person's suffering, I don't know that that actually makes sense. I think we can have compassion for other people who are going through things. We can have feelings of horror about what's happening in the world. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't allow ourselves to feel joy. In fact, the world needs us to feel joy. There has to be a balance, right? It can't just all be tragedy and suffering. And so if you're able to experience joy, by all means, let yourself. And that comes to this larger discussion, which is, all of your feelings are okay at any moment. There's no wrong feeling. There's no such thing as a wrong feeling. If you're feeling despair, you're feeling despair. If you're feeling joy, you're feeling joy. And sometimes they don't seem to make sense logically. You might be going through something that's really difficult, and then you have like a moment or a day or an hour where you just feel good or fine or just simply at peace. That's the wondrous thing about our existence, is that, we can go in and out of different feeling states. We do go in and out of different feeling states all day, every day. So if you go from despair to joy, that's part of the texture of being alive, being in a human form. And so embracing whatever comes up. Now, it might seem, we don't always want to embrace things like despair or horror. And I'm not saying, We should embrace them, but accept them, and also understand that they're not going to be here forever. Everything is always shifting and changing. The illusion, of course, is that when we are feeling something like despair or horror, oftentimes it's a very strong illusion that makes us believe that it's going to be like that forever. Like, this is how the world is now, and it's going to continue to be this way. And that's where we start to want to, control things or suppress or escape from or what have you. However, if we always understand that we're traveling and that our feelings and thoughts are flowing through us, and that's always changing. The world is always changing. We're always changing. Our thoughts and feelings are always changing. It's the age-old theme of impermanence. And that's a good thing when you're experiencing pain or horror. It's not permanent. It's going to shift. The other thing I hear from people is, okay, yes, I get what you're saying. I don't need to resist my negative feelings. I can let them flow through. But if everything's impermanent, well, so is my joy. And sometimes that translates as, I'm afraid to experience joy because, not just because I shouldn't be, because other people aren't, but well, then I'm just going to be waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I can't trust this joy. I can't trust it. It's fleeting too. Well, it is. I mean, it's always fleeting. Things are always fleeting. Things are changing. And yet, what if there were a benign foundation in life? And when I say benign, I would say, what I'm saying is, what if you can trust in the goodness of life? What if you can trust that there is a goodness in life, that life is supporting us, that no matter how things seem sometimes, that love actually does make the world go round? That in spite of the sort of places or times where there are horrific things happening, in spite of that, there is a lot of goodness happening, that the default for people is goodness, no matter, they may sometimes act bad actors, bad behaviors, but that most people really want joy and goodness in their lives, and they want that for others. And if you can trust in the overall goodness of life, and trust that life is always working towards equilibrium and balance, even when things are very disruptive. If you can trust that, if you can start to see it within yourself too, like your system is always trying to move you towards balance and health. If you can start to see that actually well-being and health are your defaults, not the exception, the default, that can also be a source of grounding or comfort. Now, you may disagree with me, because you may say, well, but I have storms in my mind all the time. And that's a subject for another video, because yeah, there is weather that happens in our minds. We have weather in our minds. We have moods, we have emotions, we have thought storms, whatever you want to call them. Those are always changing too, though. And it's like akin to saying, well, the sun is always shining, even if it's covered by the clouds. That's true of us too. There's always a foundation of health and well-being, even when some stormy weather is covering it up. So those are just some thoughts for the day that maybe can help you if you are struggling in any way, that to understand that, everything is changing, and that's a good thing. And You can also trust, though, in the overall goodness of life and in your own system to move you towards health. Even if you're not feeling good on a particular day, you know, your baseline is health. So on that note, I hope that you find yourself in a sunny disposition today and this week. And I will look forward to seeing you next time.